All right, welcome back to this week's Breakout Watchlist from August 22nd to August 26th. In this video, we'll be covering the top 10 setups going into next week. Each of these stocks either have strong fundamentals, strong technicals, or strong volume patterns that lead to uptrends. This video is sponsored by MarketSmith, which is the trading research platform that we're going to be using to break down each of the setups. Finally, if you're coming here for a specific stock, there's going to be timestamps in the comment section below so you can get to exactly what you want to see. Here are the 10 stocks that we'll be covering today. As you can see, there's a lot of charts to go through, so let's get to it. The first stock is Arcadia Health, ACHC. Medical Output Healthcare is the 29th strongest group out of 197 right now, so we have group strength behind us on that. That's an A group strength rating. The stock has an individual accumulation distribution rating of B+, meaning many of the heavy volume days come on up days versus down days. The stock's being accumulated, not distributed. Overall composite rating 96, that's awesome to see. Any stocks 85 or above, something you want to have on a watch list. And an individual relative strength rating of 95 as well. Whenever a stock has both relative strength rating and composite rating in the 90s, that's something that we want to focus on. Overall fundamentals, pretty strong. Had one quarter with negative earnings per share growth of minus 14%, but the last two quarters, both earnings per share, sales, and after-tax profit margins have been improving. We already mentioned that it was a strong group, but within the strong group, it's number 1 out of 18 stocks on relative strength and number 1 on overall composite basis. As you can see from last week, the market kind of pulled in a little bit. If we see more of a risk-off environment, this stock could still do relatively well. We see a lot of money kind of floating to the safer areas, the stocks that don't move as quickly. So this is one that even if the market kind of pulls in, maybe this pulls into the 21 EMA or around $80 and finds support there. But if the market's strong, looking for a break over Friday's high, which is $82.99, call it $83 as a potential entry point, and then keep your stop loss within 5%, maybe on Thursday's low. The next stock that we'll cover is AMR. This is an energy coal, 31st strongest group out of 197. Just like last week, we had CELH, another coal name, make it all-time high. So that group is starting to get a little bit of money flowing to it. So group strength rating of A, B minus accumulation distribution. That's because we did see some heavy volume days as this broke from 186 down to 103 is on the left side of the base here. And now we're just working up the right side. Overall composite rating of 99, doesn't get any stronger than that. Relative strength rating, 99, doesn't get stronger than that. Earnings per share, the last two quarters, we had over 1,000% earnings per share growth. Sales up 178, 238, and after-tax profit margins improving by 38% and 43%. Within the group of 12 stocks, this is number 1 on relative strength and composite rating tied with CEIX. Taking a look at fund ownership, we want to see big money flowing into the stock, and that's exactly what you could see. I mean, this stock has rallied from $6 all the way up to $186. You don't do that with retail money alone. So you can see from, 66, 75, 73, 82, and now really exploding, 133, 166, 248. So that's a nice thing to see. So going to the chart pattern, you can see a really strong pullback here from 186 to 103. After a rally from $6 all the way to 186, this kind of sell-off makes sense. We rally back up to the 50-day, roll there, rally back, kind of pull back again, and then eventually break over the 50-day as coal starts to dominate as a group as of recently. And you can see we've been trending just above the rising 8-day EMA and kind of holding really nice action on Friday as the market came down. This closed even and closed within, the 76th percentile of the daily range. So if the market continues weak on Monday, Tuesday, look to start a position near 150 so we can use Thursday's low as a very low risk entry point and stop loss. Otherwise, taking out Friday's high, 156.44 is a potential entry point. Next we have ARRY. This is a solar stock. Solar group is the number 1 out of 197 in the market, the strongest group. So we definitely want to have at least one stock on our focus list from that group. A+ group strength rating, A- accumulation distribution, 89 overall composite with a 99 individual relative strength rating. Just had earnings come out a couple weeks ago, 350% earnings per share growth, 116% sales growth, 3% after-tax profit margin improvement. In the group of 22 stocks, it's number 1 on relative strength, 7 out of 22 on overall composite basis. This did really pop on earnings, up 29%. From there, the market kind of topped out, started to pull back, and you can see we pulled back to the 8-day, and then on Friday we pulled back a little bit more, down 5.6%, but it bounced right at $20. The low of the day was $20.03, so that's an area, if the market's weak, I want to keep an eye on. If we see more market weakness and the stock is continuing to hold that area, I want to start a position around $20, so when the market pressure relieves, this will zip out and kind of push to the new highs there. So that's ARRY, I'd rather start a position near 20, but if the market kind of works itself out, breaking over Thursday's high, 22.65 is an alternative entry point. Next, we have Celsius, CELH. This is in beverages, non-alcoholic, 91st strongest group out of 197. That's a B- group strength rating. The stock has a B accumulation distribution, a 97 overall composite with a 98 individual relative strength, both 90s, something that we want to have on a watch list. And with these earnings, this is a potential true market leader. Earnings per share was up 650, 800, over 1,000. Sales up 192, 167, 137. Incredible fundamentals there. Within the group of 20 stocks, it's number 1 on relative strength, number 1 on composite, and fund ownership has been increasing. So really checking all the boxes that we look for in a true market leader. As you can see, we put in this giant cup. Now we're working on a handle. And we tested the rising 21 EMA last week. That area held as support. Buyers stepped in there. Kind of got there on Friday. Still closed relatively high in the range compared to the indexes, which closed right near the lows. So with this, I either want to start a position near the 21 EMA at $95, $95.50, or just breaking over 100, the high of the day on Friday, 179. Next, we have our first biotech stock, IONS. Biotech's third strongest group out of 197. So we're going to be covering a couple different biotech stocks, and it makes sense because the group is so strong. A+ group strength rating, B+ accumulation distribution, 80 overall composite with a 93 relative strength rating. With biotechs, that composite rating is going to be usually a little bit lower because the fundamentals aren't there on these stocks. They're very much technical setups. And because they're biotechs, they're more risky. You want to keep your position sizing lower and look to take profits a little bit quicker on that. So you can see a nice base formed. We broke out of that, and then as the market kind of rolled over, this pulled back in. But what I really like is we're pulling in on lighter and lighter volume. That volume is drying up as we just flag out nicely, not breaking under the 21 EMA on heavier than average volume, nothing like that. Just a nice push from 37 up to 45, and now flagging out with that 8-day EMA flattening out. With this, I'll be looking for a break over Friday's high, 44.32, as a potential entry point, with potential add spot at the break over the high from 816, which is 44.80, call $45. This is for IONS. On to the next biotech stock, we have MRSN. You can see this has a lot of work on the left side of the base, but what I really like is how we shot up the right side here. So from 268, that was the low, but really this earnings where we had sales over 1,000%, jumped, 33%, had follow-through day, volume and follow-through day move, up another 11% the day following earnings. Since then, consolidating as the market comes in here, this pulls back to the rising 8-day EMA. But what I want to focus on here is the last 3 days all had positive closing ranges. So above 50% of the daily closing range or the daily range. Even while the market was pulling in, this was fighting to push higher, and really setting up a nice pivot with a break over the high from Friday, 750 as a potential entry point. Next, we have another potential true market leader in ON Semiconductors. Semiconductors as a whole are starting to get going again. GFS is another stock that I'm looking at in that group, but 74th strongest group out of 197, B group strength rating. This has a B+ accumulation distribution, 98 overall composite with a 96 relative strength, double 90s, good to see. Fundamentals very strong on the stock. The last 4 quarters, all earnings per share over 100% growth. Sales up 28, 31, 25%. After-tax profit margins improving by 25% each of those last 4 quarters. Within that group, that is starting to work up. 31 stocks in that group, number 2 on relative strength rating, number 1 on overall composite basis, which is great to see. Fund ownership also exploding in this from 1596, 1673 to 1951. And many growth stocks we saw fund ownership decline in March, decline in June. Not the case for ON Semiconductors, fighting that trend. And then on the chart, you can see it's fighting that trend because we're at all-time highs while the market is kind of stalling at the 200-day simple moving average. What I would like to see with this one, because we already kind of broke out on Thursday, a 7% move into all-time highs, back through $70. What I want to see is kind of a pullback into $70 with that 8-day EMA there, the previous high around 71.25. So if the market is weak and this pulls back into 70, that's an area that I want to start a position. Otherwise, if this needs to flag out for another week or so and then use the high of the 18th, which was, 75.26 as a potential entry point, I don't want to take that as my entry right away because this does This could consolidate a little bit more, especially with the market kind of weakening at the last part of last week. So looking $70 on weakness and then eventually 75 on strength. Next, we have an oil and gas IPO, PFHC. Oil and gas services, 111 out of 197. That's relatively weak. That's a C+ group strength rating. But oil and gas, or energy as a whole, is starting to get some money flowing into it as well. We saw Occidental last week break out after Buffett said he was potentially taking up to 50% share of that company. So keep an eye on the group's oil and gas. Fundamentally, very strong stock. Earnings per share up over 100%, and then last quarter up 833. Sales up 237. After-tax profit margins up about 11%. We only have 1 quarter of funds to work with 69 funds there. But within the group of 32 stocks, number 13 on relative strength, number 3 overall composite basis. Nice to see there. And with IPOs, what I really like to do is kind of drill down to a smaller time frame. So going to a 60-minute chart here, each of these candles, 60 minutes. You can see we're flagging out above the previous highs here. So you can see kind of had some turbulence there, had some turbulence as we hit the highs again. And now we're flagging out and tightening up above this area. So now blue skies ahead, very little resistance up top. And we're putting in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and now we're really tightening. What I want to see here is a break over $20. That'll be my entry point, and then try to keep my stop loss around 19.5. The last biotech that we'll talk about is SRPT. We talked about biotech's third strongest group out of 197, so A+ group strength rating. The stock has an A accumulation distribution, 92 overall composite with a 97 individual relative strength. Earnings the last 4 quarters, 32, 39, 43, 42% year over year. So that's solid. Still negative earnings per share because their after-tax profit margin is kind of a nightmare. Within the group of 799 stocks, it's 53rd on relative strength, 17th overall on composite basis. Had a really nice move after this base, beautiful base in here, kind of holding that $60 area the entire way. So broke out from 61.28 all the way up to 113. So just under 100% move here. And now we're pulling back and really tightening up above right at flattening out 8-day EMA as the market's coming in. This comes in as well, but volume is getting lighter than average after this move. If we need a little bit more time to curl up and then take out this high from Wednesday, 110.33, that would be fine. Allow that 21 EMA to catch up. But if we just come out of the gates with power, taking out the 109.11, the high from Friday, is a potential entry point for SRPT. And last stock that we'll cover today, another potential true market leader in TH, Target Hospitality. The group itself is very weak. That's the one big downside to the setup. Leisure lodging, 180 out of 197, D- group strength rating. But the individual stock has a relative strength rating of 99, a composite rating of 89, and an accumulation distribution of A+. You'd see that accumulation distribution rating come in as we broke out from the base here. Massive volume and follow-through volume. So it wasn't just one day of volume, one big buyer stepping in. This was big move up, 25% move, and that wasn't enough. They needed to push it higher with the next day, next day up 19%, massive volume. Next day even up more, another 9%, massive volume. Then we tighten up here around 12.5, push through that. And finally, we start to see some resistance around $15, $14.86. We pull back, undercut the 21 EMA on a heavier volume day. So that's one kind of weakness, but quickly we reclaimed the 21, reclaimed the 8, and now we're tightening up right around 14. We had an inside candle day on Friday, positive close plus basically flat, but with the market showing weakness, great relative strength on Friday. If the market continues to act weak, this setup is going to get better and better because we're going to tighten up right around $14 and then eventually push higher. Second half of the week, that would be the ideal setup. But if the market's strong on Monday out of the gates, breaking out over Friday's high, 14.47, call it 14.50 is your potential entry point. And that's going to be the breakout watch list for the upcoming week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please do me a huge favor and leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I make a breakout watch list video every Sunday and do other trading related videos. Huge thanks to MarketSmith for sponsoring this video. MarketSmith was the trading research platform that we were using to break down each of the setups. If If you want to give it a try yourself, there's a link in the description below. And finally, if you guys want to hear more from me, you can follow me on the other social media sites. I'm Nick_Drendel at TikTok, Instagram, StockTwits, and Nick Drendel on Twitter. I post the most on Twitter and StockTwits, so you can see kind of what I'm looking at intraday there. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.